So if you saw my last video, that was the big gender reveal, which I will put a link to up there, and you can watch that if you didn't see it. It was very silly, quite deliberately. You would have seen this box, which says our baby's genitals are, and then this balloon emerged, which says none of your business, because our baby's genitals are none of your business, not really anyone else's. So I'll put it back over there. So what that was really just us poking fun at the concept of the gender reveal. It's a weird thing to do, I think, and they've come up with some really strange and innovative ways of doing it. You see all sorts of terrible videos on the internet of these gender reveals, and they're so sort of binaristic, is that a word? They're very binary and they're very cis-normative, and they try to stereotype newborn babies, unborn babies even, into one of two boxes before they're even born, and I don't think that's a cool thing to do. So we kind of had a little bit of a silly one of our own to poke fun at the concept. So what those videos really are, you can't know an unborn child's gender. They're really genital reveal parties, and I think it's a little bit weird. Who needs to know what a baby's genitals look like? I don't. You don't. It's none of my business. It's none of your business. It's nobody's business what a baby's genitals look like. You really don't need to know that. So our baby is due very soon, couple of months, and we are going to be bringing it up gender neutral, as I've mentioned before. That means that from birth we'll be using a gender neutral pronoun, the same as mine, they, them, their. This is rather than immediately putting the baby into he, him, she, hers, we're going to allow that neutral sort of development initially, and then over time, as the baby grows and develops and becomes more sort of aware of identity and more understanding of how things work, they can then make their own decisions about their identity, their gender, and they can choose what words they like to define themselves. So for example, they may like son or daughter, or they may not. They may like he pronouns or she, or they may like to stick with they. They may like brother, they may like sister. Any words, labels like that they choose, we'll use for them. We'll accept them, we'll acknowledge them, we'll make sure that they have that sort of agency over their own identity, whilst also explaining most people with a body like this would identify as boys, most people with a body like this would identify as girls. There is no strict requirement for you to identify into one of those boxes, because this baby is going to be their own person, and we want to bring them up with that understanding and that knowledge. Now, some people have said that bringing up a child gender neutral can be confusing. I don't think it's confusing for kids to be brought up gender neutral. I think kids are very good at understanding concepts like this. In fact, watch this video of my kids when we bought the balloon for this ridiculous gender reveal that we did. They were talking about it on the bus. This was their own words and their own understanding of how we're bringing the baby up. They speak for themselves. What have you got?
A giant balloon that says, none of your business, bro.
Where's the bro?
None of your business.
It says none of your business.
It says none of your business.
Saffron, why have we got a balloon that says none of your business?
Because today we did a gender reveal for this, and we have that because if you watch this video, you'll realise that we didn't actually say a gender. We just put this because it's unknown until it tells us what it wants to be.
Babies don't come out bellies going like, hello everybody, and then they don't shake your hand. And they all get one, and it's going to be raised gender neutral.
So you see, young kids like that get it. It's not that difficult to wrap your head around, really. Adults who are more conditioned into a binary way of thinking, a cis-normative way of thinking, may struggle with it a bit more, because you have to unlearn all those things to understand what is it. You call it a new concept. It's not a new concept, but it's something that isn't necessarily that common at the moment, and you know, we understand that. We know we're going to face challenges doing this, but we think it's what's best for the baby, and you know, that's the job of a parent, to bring them up in the way that you think is best. So that's what we're going to do. Just to address some of the common questions that I've had, I've got them on my screen here. What are you having though? Is it a boy or a girl? It's a baby. We don't know, it doesn't know. I mean, on the scans we haven't even checked the body that the baby is going to have, because we don't care. It's none of our business. As the balloon says, it's something we'll find out on the day that they're born, and then it doesn't matter. That's not a key component of their identity at all. Yeah, but is it really a boy or a girl? Like I said, we don't know the baby's body. We're not going to know what gender identity the baby or the child at the time will adopt. So that's something that we'll find out after some time. But isn't that just going to confuse the child? No, not really. People don't have any trouble using he or she pronouns for newborn babies, and that may turn out to be wrong after time as well. So I think using they gives them much more of a broad breadth of options in how they develop and how they identify themselves. And like I said, we intend to give them that knowledge, that understanding, and enough information to make that choice about their identity, or to at least have the words to tell us how they're feeling inside. Because it's not necessarily a choice, it's about having the labels for the feelings that you're having. And it took me a long time to find non-binary. I was 26 when I found out non-binary was even a thing. Those previous 26 years of my life, when I tried to be that boy, that man that was never quite me, if I'd have known that I could have adopted that term non-binary and it was a thing, then, you know, my life could have been maybe happier, maybe a bit different. So I think it's good to give the kid that knowledge at a young age. But isn't it too young? Won't they be too young to know? Well, yeah, at first, because they'll be a newborn baby. Just the same as babies who are assigned a binary gender. They're equally too young to know. Most children are able to insistently, consistently, persistently identify their own gender by the age of about 3 or 4. So that's the kind of age we're looking at, where we think we might have a bit more of an understanding of who the child actually is. But isn't it child abuse? No. No, it's about raising the child in the way that we think is best and what we think is going to give them the best start in life. So no, it absolutely is not. And if you think it is, you're probably a transphobic shit, and why are you even watching my videos? Go away. So yeah, so we are going to bring up the baby gender neutral, and I'm sure there'll be more videos along the way of that journey as it unfolds. So yeah, keep an eye on the channel, subscribe, and then you will see all of those videos, and I will see you next time.